one. Welcome to the RPG After Years, your weekly show covering all things RPGs from the past, present, and future. I'm Scott, and with us today is a returning special guest.
It's me, Lauren.
Yay, Lauren's back.
Yay!
This is episode 59. Lauren has been on the main show before for the Nier Automata review. That's the only one, right, as far as the main show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
As well as a smattering of Patreon non-RPG reviews. We've done Last of Us. We've done... What else have we done?
Blair Witch.
Oh, yeah. Dark Pictures Anthology. A bunch of them.
Yeah.
So she's got her podcasting feet under her now. But as a quick refresher, she is a close friend of Corey and mine's, as well as a patron herself. And she's here today to help us with another review. This time we're going to be reviewing the 2015 timed Xbox 360 and Xbox One exclusive, Rise of the Tomb Raider. Hang on, I really need to cough. Sorry.
COVID.
I was like, I was trying really hard not to cough in the middle of that song transition, but I did anyway.
That's extremely difficult. Like if you like have to cough, like I remember being in quiet lectures, like needing to cough, and it's like it feels like your eyeballs are gonna pop out of your head.
Yeah, I think I might just leave that in actually.
It's fine.
Anyway, since we're doing a review, we're not going to have any kind of catch up this week. I thought about having a segment in here for Lauren to tell us about all of her life changes, but we don't got time.
We ain't got time for that.
But for those that don't know, Lauren did move recently, and she's left us, and now we don't get to play games anymore, and it's so sad.
We need to figure out a way. Well, if I could get my hands on a dang PS5, I feel like we could do it, but
Yeah, with
right?
the
Yeah.
PS5 remote play, I've heard that the they're starting to get easier to get your hands on, but like I've been
Okay.
hearing that for a couple months now, but so I don't know.
Yeah, that one day they did the Walmart drop. Did I tell you what? Every 10 minutes they would say, "Okay, we're gonna restock more in 10 minutes." And on the dot, like 10 minutes later, I would go to add one to my cart, and it kept telling me the 10-minute thing, and then it was like, "We're out of stock." So anyway, but I'll
Fucking
be on the.
scalper bots.
Is that what it is? Because I was like, "How are people so fast?"
It's a
Anyway,
combination of people being fast, but it's also like people have bots set
bots.
up to just automatically buy them as soon as they come out, and then so they can resell them. It's like fucking trash humans. I hate scalpers.
God, so annoying. Yeah, so I miss our game nights, but we'll figure out a way to do it like
Soon.
virtually. Yes.
All right. Before we jump into the review, we do have a couple of quick announcements. That's our transition noise for this episode.
That takes me back.
I think that's whenever you sit down at one of the campfires, if you have a skill point or something.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, first off, the RPG Club is still ongoing. For those that don't know, it's like a book club, but for RPGs, where the hosts and the community plays through the same game together. Currently, that game is World of Final Fantasy, and the current goal is to complete Chapter 14 by April 11th. Lauren, you haven't been participating this time, right?
No, not because I
Shh,
didn't want
I'm just kidding.
to. Not
You
because I
act
didn't
like
want
you've been
to.
having a lot of shit going on or something.
I have, yeah, I know. I have had a lot of shit going on. So, but I will say, as a patron, the RPG Club is extremely fun, and I have participated before, and I'm going to participate in the future. Just wasn't able to this month or this time.
Honestly, I'm not sure you would love this one anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think
Okay.
you would hate
Well,
it, but
might not like be
yeah,
obsessed with it. Okay.
right. The second announcement here is that the Final Fantasy VII Materia Lockdown has kicked off. It's ongoing. We're entering the third week of it, I believe, or maybe the second full week. For those that don't know, this is a charity challenge created by our very own Bill, where you slowly play through Final Fantasy VII, and your characters get assigned certain jobs by a Twitter bot that Jay made. And so basically, for example, Cloud may only be able to use green and purple materia, just as an example. It's an interesting spin on a game if you love the game, but maybe you're looking for a way to freshen it up. And it's all for charity. All proceeds that the event generates goes towards the Motor Neuron Disease Association, which is a foundation that helps people with motor neuron disease. So it's for a good cause, and I encourage everybody, if you're interested, to hop in. And I'll be streaming it, by the way, too. Bill's streaming it on the main channel, and I've been streaming it on Mondays. Fun times. I think I'm about to go fight the weapons. That's like the super bosses of the game, Lauren.
They're called weapons.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, there's like Emerald Weapon and Ruby Weapon, and they're like these giant kaiju type monsters that
Ooh,
you don't
cool.
have to face to beat the game or anything. But
I gotcha.
yep. With all that out of the way, let's start climbing up the Siberian mountains and up into the review. Okay. It is Siberia that she goes to in this one, right? I know it's Siberia and
Yes.
Syria. You go to Siberia first, and then Syria is the rest of the game, if I remember right.
Yeah, and like Katesh and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm.
So, the game first came to North America and Australia, to the Xbox 360 and Xbox One on November 10th, 2015, which is 1,973 days ago, or 5 years, 4 months, and 26 days ago. I can't decide if that feels about right or if that feels like it wasn't that long ago. What do you think?
I don't know. I just feel like we've been through so much since
Yeah.
then. That feels like a lifetime ago. Like I feel like I was a different person in 2015.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Um, and for those that don't know, Rise of the Tomb Raider is the second one of the reboot trilogy. I think it's really funny because the anytime I talk to people about these Tomb Raider games, and
Hmm.
I'll mention like Rise or Shadow, they'll be like, "Now which one is that? Is that the second one or the?" It's like, and honestly, I have a hard time keeping it straight in my head sometimes too. I've gotten it wrong before.
Yeah, yeah, I actually for a long time I got them mixed up and it led to a little snafu where I asked for the wrong one on my Christmas list and so then I got I guess
Oops.
maybe this I asked for Rise. So then I got two copies of Rise. Anyway, it was a whole thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
And for those wondering, it was a bit of a scandal that the game was exclusive to Xbox at first, and we're going to get into that a little bit later in the history. So hold your horses. The game came to Europe on November 13th, which was 3 days later, so 1,970 days ago, or 5 years, 4 months, and 23 days. It finally came to PS4 a little under a year later on October 11th, 2016. That's a day before my birthday.
Aw.
And it also later came to Windows, Mac, Linux, and Stadia, which is kind of crazy because like a lot of games, it's pretty rare for a mainline game to get ported to Mac and even Linux like that. I think.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I guess they made it with a good foundation. It was easy to port. I don't know. Anyway, so on this show, we always go over what was popular at the time as far as the top of the music charts and the number one movies and all that. So when it came out in the US, the top Billboard song was The Hills by The Weeknd. Actually, let me redo that. I had it on the wrong volume level. 1 second. So when it came out in the US, the number one at the top of the Billboard charts was The Hills by The Weeknd.
Found out I was coming, sent your friends home. Keep on trying to hide it, but your friends know. I only call you when it's half-past, but the only time that
Do you know this song, Lauren?
Yeah, it was everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it, actually.
Me. Oh, The Weeknd is so legit. I love his stuff.
The Weeknd's amazing. And like, I forget what their most recent like big hit was, but I don't think it sounds anything like this song. So it's
Yeah,
really
he's got
interesting.
range for sure. Yeah, no, and yeah, he's amazing.
This one makes me want to like light up a hookah.
Ooh, yes. Get the like the lights going. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
In the UK, the number one song was "Turn the Music Louder" (parentheses Rumble) by KDA featuring Tiny Tempa and Katie B.
Oh yeah, ain't no one left. Rumble, go hard, no rest. Come on.
You got me feeling for your power. Turn the music louder, let me feel it.
Rumble, go hard, no rest. Come on.
I don't think I've ever heard this song before I pulled it.
No, I've never heard that, and it does not sound like a song from 2015. It sounds like it's from the 90s to me.
Yeah, or like the late '80s or something. Kind of weird. Like when I was saying the title and the artist, it's like you can't just say words and string them into a sentence.
You can't just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and that's your song title or your name as an artist. Sorry.
Yeah, it's
Sorry
okay.
to all
I
the
don't
yeah.
I don't love the song based on what I've heard, but I can kind of bop to it.
Yeah.
By the way, for those wondering why Corey's not here, he is a lazy, sleepy boy, and he's still asleep. Decided not to join us. So Lauren gets to do the honors of the movies.
That's so exciting. Okay. So at the time, the US box office number one hit movie was Spectre, directed by Sam Mendes, starring Daniel Craig.
This is a 007 movie, right?
Yes. And I'm trying to think if I saw it. I feel like I've seen all the Daniel Craig Bond movies. No, I did. This was the one with did you see it?
I haven't seen any of the Daniel Craig ones.
Oh, are you kidding me? You haven't seen Casino Royale?
I think I might have seen the first one. That was the first one, right?
No, there was one before that.
Okay.
Casino Royale was the second.
Whichever
Oh
one
my
was the
God.
first one was the one I saw. But even then, I think I was in watching it in like a high school class,
Oh,
and so I like wasn't really paying attention. So
yeah. Yeah. As the kids say, if you see it in theaters, it just hits different. So
yeah, I know
I saw
Corey's a big
Casino.
fan of them though.
Oh my gosh, they're so good. And this one was good. I think I saw it. And then it was the same over in the UK. It was Spectre was the number one movie.
Makes sense. They're always a big hit whenever they come out.
Yes.
Isn't the next one supposed to be the last one?
Yeah, he wasn't gonna do it. He was like, I'm done being, James Bond. And then I want to know how much money they offered him. Because then he was like, okay, one more. Because there were rumors like swirling about, okay, who's the next Bond going to be? And I don't know if it was confirmed if it was going to be Idris Elba, but a lot of people wanted it to be him.
Oh, I
Um,
remember that.
so yeah,
And it's been delayed like a shit ton of times.
a million. Yeah, a million times.
Yeah. Um, this is a tangent, but speaking of Daniel Craig, just a couple of nights ago, Corey and I watched Knives Out for the first time.
I saw you saying that in the Discord, and I meant to ask you about that. Okay, thoughts? Did you enjoy?
I thought it was really good. I thought maybe it didn't quite live up to the hype because I had
Oh,
heard
it's so
people
hyped.
acted like it was like the best movie of the year or something like that, and I liked it.
Hmm.
Um,
No,
but
yeah,
honestly,
I'm with
Daniel
you.
Craig was like the down point of the movie though for me. I didn't
Totally
think he was
with
that
you.
good.
The accent was bad. The
Yeah.
accent was bad, period. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's like, yeah, I liked it a lot. I love movies like that, like mystery and it's in a house and ooh, what happened?
I
But
made the comment that it reminded me of like a modern Clue, and then they literally like in the movie said they basically live in the Clue house. A few
yes.
minutes later, I was
Oh,
like, "Whoa,
yeah, the inspiration is evident. I like Clue more, but I'm excited they're making like I think they signed some crazy Netflix deal to do like three more or something like that
I
or
think they
four, I don't
announced
know.
the Knives Out 2 and 3 like only a week or
Okay.
two ago, and they'll star Daniel Craig. Um, the only
Boo.
thing is, like, one of the reasons I was so interested is Chris Evans in a sweater, and not to spoil anything, but I don't think he'll be in the other ones.
Yeah, probably not.
Oh well. Anyway, I just wanted to talk to you about that while
Yeah.
it was on my mind. So let's jump right into the history here. There's a surprising amount, considering it's the second game in a trilogy. I wouldn't have thought there would be this much to cover. So let's get right to it. So, Rise of the Tomb Raider is a 2015 action adventure game developed by Crystal Dynamics with support from, I never know if it's Eidos or Eidos. I want to say Eidos. Eidos Montreal, and published by Square Enix's European subsidiary. It is the sequel to the 2013 video game Tomb Raider, and the 11th entry in the Tomb Raider series. Its story follows archaeologist Lara Croft as she ventures into Siberia in search of the legendary city of Katesh while battling the paramilitary organization Trinity, which intends to uncover the city's promise of immortality. Lara must traverse the environment and combat enemies with firearms and stealth as she explores semi-open hub areas, and I'm sure we'll talk about these hubs in detail a little later. In these hubs, she can raid challenge tombs to unlock new rewards, complete side missions, and scavenge for resources, which can be used to craft useful materials. So that's just the basic overlay of the land. And we'll talk how we felt about this game specifically as part of the trilogy a little later.
Sounds good. So development for Rise began 2 weeks after the team finished polishing the 2013 reboot. So
Can you give them a break, like a
dude.
mini vacation or something?
what I was gonna say. Give them a little time off. Jeez. It was led by Noah Hughes and Brian Horton, they're the franchise's creative and game directors, respectively. Brianna Pratchett returned as the game's writer, and Camilla Luddington reprised her role as the voice and motion capture actor for Lara. Bobby Tahori, known for his work on Game of Thrones, composed the soundtrack. That is legit. Development was completed on October 9th, 2015.
It's interesting about the Game of Thrones thing there because I would say in general Game of Thrones has pretty good music. But I don't think he was the primary composer because I don't think that this game's soundtrack is that great. Spoiler alert. So.
Yeah, spoiler alert, it's not going to change your life at all. So, yeah. Maybe he was like way down on the roster in Game of Thrones. You know? Like he wasn't making.
Maybe he did like one song that everybody likes. I don't know.
He suggested like one note. Like,
There
okay,
you
play
go.
a G there. Yeah.
However, in August 2013, a little over 2 years before release, Square Enix Europe executive Phil Rogers announced that a new Tomb Raider game was in development for the 8th generation of video game consoles. Microsoft announced the game at E3 2014. At Gamescom 2014, the company said that Rise of the Tomb Raider would be an exclusive for its Xbox series of video game platforms, including Xbox 360 and Xbox One. According to Microsoft Studios executive Phil Spencer, it would be a timed exclusive. This sparked outrage from players who blamed franchise owner Square Enix for the decision. Microsoft calling the game, quote, exclusive on Xbox for holiday 2015, caused confusion among the gaming press and players. Rogers explained in 2015 that the Microsoft timed exclusivity was primarily due to the company's strong support for the 2013 reboot. Spencer also spoke on the exclusivity, stating, quote, I'm a big fan of Uncharted, and I wish we had an action-adventure game of that ilk. We've started some, and we've looked at them, but we don't have one today of that quality. This is an opportunity. Crystal Dynamics head Daryl Gallagher said that the partnership could help the team, quote, deliver the best game they can. Rogers called the arrangement a, quote, tough decision. So, I actually remember when this game was announced with the Xbox exclusivity, and, you know, I follow Stella, a community leader of the Tomb Raider franchise.
Stella.
And yes, she's our girl. But she like retweets shit from all across the Tomb Raider fandom. I just remember like seeing outrage and like it was a fire basically.
Totally forgot about this, or I don't even know if I knew about it, but that missed me, all that controversy. So that's kind of like news to me.
That's interesting to me because weren't you already a fan of the first game before this one came out?
Yeah, I think I'm just literally having old lady brain and forgetting it because this would personally affect me as a fan of the games and as a soul. I don't have an Xbox, so you would think I would remember this. I don't know. How
Yeah.
much later did it come? A year later it came out for PlayStation, or not that much? A
Just
year?
under a year.
Okay, yeah, I don't know why I don't remember it, but that is a little scandalous.
Yeah, and the comparison to Uncharted is interesting because I mean, a lot of people do say these games are like Uncharted, but with a woman instead of a man.
So better.
I get the comparison.
Yeah.
After having played Uncharted 1, though, I don't think they're that similar. The only way they're similar is it's an action adventure. They have some gunplay, and you kind of climb up cliffs and shit in both of them. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think on the surface, it's like, oh, you're like exploring and you're in like jungles and there's guns. So they're the same. But yeah, just the little teeny bit I've played of Uncharted. I want to go through and play a full, like, I want to go through an entire Uncharted game, but I, this hooked me more than those games did.
I will go ahead and tell you that the first Uncharted, I've probably told you this before, but I had to try the first Uncharted like 4 or 5 times. And then when we finally beat it, it was because I started a new run on easy. And I did end up enjoying it actually at the end. And I want to play the rest of the games now. But I do like these
Yeah.
Tomb Raider games better so far based on just that first game.
I need to do that and change the difficulty level because that was my issue. I was like, dude, this game is hard. And I was like, this is the beginning of the game. Like, okay.
Yeah. I never played games on easy either. So like that was a big deal for me.
You took a hit to the pride, but do what you got to do.
And the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the third game in the series, that one didn't have any exclusivity. I don't remember that being a thing.
No, I don't think so. Must have just
Yeah.
been for the second one.
They learned their lesson.
They did. So, as far as the story goes, one of the game's intentions was to craft a more personal experience for players. And the team wanted to explore the journey in which Lara becomes, quote unquote, the Tomb Raider.
I am the Tomb Raider. We
She
always had a
was,
joke where we kept waiting for her to say that, and she never does. But
is that a thing in the old games or no?
no, I think we just
Oh,
made that up.
I would love for that to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. She was described as, although still having to struggle to survive, she is more confident and more competent. Writers said it was difficult to find a balance between making Lara experienced and competent and vulnerable in crises to appeal to players. So they were trying to kind of like, balance her out a little bit. To indicate her hunger for knowledge, the team adjusted the collectibles, allowing Lara to learn new languages and use them to find hidden secrets. Was
How
that
do you
not a
feel
thing
about
in the
the?
first one? Was that not
I don't
learning
think the
languages?
languages thing was.
Oh, okay. Okay.
How do you feel about Laura in this game, just in general?
I think the team did a good job. I think what I just talked about makes a lot of sense because if she's just like badass all the time and struggles, she doesn't struggle at all. She's not like quite as relatable, sort of. I love her. I love her in this like rebooted franchise. I think she's a very
Yeah,
compelling protagonist.
she's a cool character. I think she's at her weakest though in this game. I think
Hmm.
in this game because she's so driven to figure out what happened to her dad, she comes across as like short-sighted and maybe even a bit annoying to me at times. Um, in the
Yeah, she
first
had.
game, she is super vulnerable, so that helped endear her. And in the third game, she's full badass, so that's like hell yeah, girl. But in this one, it's like kind
Yeah.
of a weird in between for me.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. She had like major tunnel vision and like the way that she like interacted with other characters, I didn't love, So yeah, I hear what you're saying on that. Totally.
Okay. Rihanna Pratchett found Rise of the Tomb Raider more difficult to write than the 2013 reboot, figuring out Lara's initial mental state and character introduction. The cast was shrunk significantly so more screen time could be given to each character, which I actually think was a good move because there's a lot of characters in that first game. They end up only getting 2 or 3 scenes of any importance. On the other hand, I don't think they did a super good job with the characters in this one, so you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
To help establish the game's tone and visuals, Crystal Dynamics developed a collection of movie scenes. Films included Rambo: First Blood Part 2, which inspired the team about the game's stealth mechanics, and Terminator 2: Judgment Day, whose protagonists Sarah Connor and Lara Croft are, quote, burdened with a truth no one believes. The Edge and The Grey inspired game scenes in which Lara fights bears and wolves. Hannah and The Descent inspired the game's bows, arrows, and pickaxe. And Alien vs. Predator and The Day After Tomorrow helped the team conceive the game's tundra setting. Lots of knowledge bombs in there.
A lot of, yeah, that's interesting. I feel like you can definitely see some of the inspiration they drew, like Sarah Connor and Lara Croft. Most definitely, I can see that. The tundra setting, it's funny because I think of this game as being like the snowy cold one, but that's not for very long. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
not a ton of the game.
Yeah, it's like the first like fourth of it, maybe.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I liked it. I would have enjoyed being in that environment for longer, but
yeah, I liked the call out of The Descent there because that's a movie we always talk about for some reason.
because it's amazing.
Yeah,
Do we need any other reason? We need to go back and really watch through the second one, even though it's trash, because like we were both falling asleep. So,
yeah,
so they worked on improving the story's pacing, which Horton thought was as important as the story itself. Several features with gameplay potential not fitting the story's context, such as vehicles and an early scene in which Laura battles enemies in a Jeep, were cut. Oh man, that would have been kind of fun.
yeah.
The,
Give us
yeah.
snowmobiles.
Oh, that would have been cool. The team listened to player feedback about the original game and made gameplay adjustments, such as reducing the number of QuickTime events,
At
expanding.
the time, I didn't. I don't think I realized that that was
Mhm.
a thing. But like looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, there are less QuickTime events, and I'm happy about that.
Do people know? I don't mind a QuickTime event. I mean, it depends on like how quick are we talking and what are the consequences, but I
Yeah,
enjoy them. They also expanded the game's hunting system. Boo, hate
boo.
that. I
We
hate
don't like the hunting.
hunting. Take it out. We don't need it. I wish there was a feature where you could just turn on like auto hunting and she would just like kill them
You
because
just
I'm
go
not.
make a sandwich while she.
Yes, exactly. And they also increased the significance of traversing stealthily, which I love. I love stealth mechanics in games.
Yep.
Cinematic moments and action scenes, which were designed by an internal team known as OMS, which oh my shit is that what?
Okay.
Alrighty, they were retained in the sequel, so
I
fun
guess they
group
did a
over
good
there.
job. Yeah.
Yes, they know their shit.
Yeah. The theme of survival remained the story's core, with the team modifying gameplay accordingly. The expanded crafting system required players to use the environments more. However, Crystal Dynamics wanted to avoid making it a pure survival game, as it was felt that this would discourage player exploration. Like its predecessor, Rise has a structure similar to a Metroidvania. The team wanted players to feel that Siberia is a living, dynamic world, and the game not merely a long sequence of events. I would say they did a pretty good job with that in this one. Um, and honestly, this one kind of feels more of a Metroidvania than even the third game because I feel like there's more things that you have to come back to later after you get abilities in this one.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. Yeah, where you have to go back and revisit previous areas, which I don't always love that, to be honest with you. But
It
yeah.
depends on how it's done. Um, but we'll get to more of that.
So the game world was designed to reflect Lara's distorted mental state. And the team introduced the concept of quote unquote ominous beauty to achieve this.
I have that.
Sam, I mean, we're the definition of ominous beauty. Like you might think we look good, but you're a little scared. Um, the team was inspired by other video games and fine art, including Russian realists. They traveled to Yosemite National Park and several locations in Turkey, including Cappadocia, Istanbul, and Ephesus, researching Byzantine culture and Greek architecture to design Syria and Katesh. The team took 6 months to create the game's snow technology, which helped to increase player immersion. To add variety to its landscape, the team introduced the Oasis, which had a dramatically different look from Siberia.
I always wonder whenever I hear about these dev crews like traveling to vacations for research, like are they just taking a vacation or are they still working really hard?
Yeah, it's like we had to go explore all the bars in Turkey last night because we needed to research for the game. We had to.
Yeah. And I
I
will
want
say
that
the
job.
snow, yeah, me too. The snow does look really good in this game.
Yeah, I was just thinking that because that's a thing I feel can look like really, really fake and like take you out of it. But yeah, very much like immersed in the snow environment.
Um, okay, so after the developers listened to player feedback, the game emphasized tomb raiding more than its predecessors. According to Hughes, the team analyzed some of the older Tomb Raider titles and distilled their best features while incorporating the reboot's physics based puzzles. They intended to add more tombs, making players feel like real discoverers and inspiring awe. The tombs are made larger than the reboot, and water puzzles, which were featured in older Tomb Raider games, were included. The puzzles were often interconnected, with the team adopting a nested puzzle approach. They also made optional tombs more meaningful, giving players unique skills and items rather than just EXP. I will say I do really enjoy the tombs, even when they make me feel stupid.
Yeah.
And they did do a good job of like having more of them and making them cooler than in the first game.
I love the tombs, and just like you, I feel the dumbest person alive during them, but I love them. And like the whole inspiring awe, like a lot of them you walk in and the scale is big. Like you'll look up and you'll see this big tomb and there's
Mhm.
like inspiring music playing. And yeah, it's awesome. And I think they did a really good job by like diversifying the puzzles. Like each one was different, kind of. I love them.
Yeah, I think this is the one that has the tomb that's like you look up and there's like a big observatory, like the rings interconnected all over around each other and hanging planets. That was really cool.
Yeah.
In
There
the
were a lot of
chat,
neat
we've
ones.
got Stasher saying, I own every Tomb Raider game. I actually think that I do as well, if I think about it. There might be one or two I'm missing.
Mm.
And then he says, y'all some fake fans. Well, that's not nice.
Well, Stasher, you're not wrong about I'm not a fake fan, but I'm a new fan. So, but
You're a
there's
reboot
enough.
trilogy fan.
Yeah, I'm a reboot trilogy fan, but there's enough like love for Lara to go around.
Yep.
Um, so as far as the music, the primary composer, like we said, was Bobby Tahori. His primary goal was to compose the game's music and to support the narrative. He was delighted to have more composition time than previous projects, and he listened to the earlier games' soundtracks to immerse himself in the Tomb Raider world. The soundtrack was recorded in Nashville by a 52-piece string and brass orchestra. The game also employs middleware dynamic percussion system middleware to create music as the game is played. Crystal Dynamics also signed Karen O from the Yeah Yeah Yeahs to produce the game's theme song, I Shall Rise. That is random. That is so random.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good
Hmm.
song, though. It plays during the credits, and we'll hear it later on. I think it's like the last transition in this, but it's,
Awesome.
I like the Yeah Yeah Yes. So,
Oh, me too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, wow, okay. I guess
yeah.
maybe Karen O is a big Tomb Raider fan as well.
That's our new headcanon.
Yes.
Camilla Luddington voiced Laura and provided motion capture at a Los Angeles studio over a 2 year period. According to the actress, one of the greatest challenges in voicing Laura was having to, quote, yell over wind and snow. I could see that. Luddington trained for the role, with experts teaching her how to hold various weapons. The team wanted to ensure that Laura's first game for the eighth generation of video game consoles looked good. Spraying MOVA fluorescent paint on Luddington's face, they obtained 7,000 points of reference for the facial modeling, I guess. The
Wow.
team had difficulty developing Laura from motion capture, finding Luddington's footage too realistic, and tried to give the young Laura more, quote, subtle facial expressions. Sounds like a hard job.
That sounds extremely difficult. And I'm curious about them saying they found Luddington's footage too realistic. Like, I wonder.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, anytime Laura, I mean, we always talk about how unrealistic it is. You know, she's making like these 18-foot jumps and
Yeah.
climbing along walls one-handed, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to suspend like disbelief a little bit in these games.
Yeah. Speaking of Camilla Luddington, it's time for my voice actor corner. Surprisingly, I was a little surprised by the amount of work she's done. There wasn't a whole lot. But she's voiced Supergirl in Infinite Crisis, which I think is a video game. As well, she's also had an assortment of TV and film roles, but none of them that I recognized. She also, however, she did win the Gamer's Choice Award for fan favorite female voice actor for her role as Laura in the game's sequel, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Um, and I remember a lot of the awards that the game was nominated for slash won was like Lara Croft as a character or the performance of Luddington as Laura. So
Yeah, it is surprising that she doesn't have like a longer resume because she is awesome. Like I love like her performance in this game, so that is surprising.
agreed. Alongside release, an 18-issue comic series titled just Tomb Raider began publication in early 2013. Produced by Dark Horse Comics and written by Pratchett and Gail Simone, the comics bridged the gap between the 2013 reboot and Rise, explaining the absence of some of the key secondary characters in the sequel, such as Sam and Reyes. Which that was one thing we were complaining about, like what happened to those characters that actually made it through, the first game.
Yeah, because the first game was such like you had like your little troop around you, like you had your little crew, and this one is much more like kind of solitary Laura adventuring. So
Hmm.
yeah, we were
And
especially sad about Sam. Like, where's Sam at?
it does bring back Jonah, but uh, it feels like he's for one reason or another separated from you like 90% of the game. So
Yeah, you'll have like a reunion like Jonah, and then like a giant avalanche will, well, isn't that literally what happened? It's
yeah.
like, yeah, then you're separated. Also, I don't know if we'll talk about it. Jonah looks extremely different in this game for some reason. Don't know why.
So in the first game, he looks like he's Polynesian or Samoan or something, and in this one, he's just black guy. He
Yeah.
looks like.
And then in the third game, he looks the way he did in the first one. So don't know what happened
What
there.
happened? Yeah.
Don't know.
Real quick, I don't want to go off on a huge tangent on this, but I did like kind of do some research into these comics and like some of the events that transpire in them. Uh, there's a whole arc where Sam is again possessed by Queen Himiko, and she like ends up in an insane asylum. There's a part where Sam stabs a shark in the eyeball. Uh, and it's like the whole thing. And I was like, damn, this story is like more interesting than anything that happened in the three games. It's like,
Yeah, can we get that happen? Can we get a little possession action? I want to see, I want to be in the asylum. Like, let's get that going.
but I think it explains why Sam has a harder time with Laura. Like, I think there's a line somewhere in here that she's not ready to reconnect or something like that. And it's like, well, I don't
Wow.
blame her after all this like, additional shit that happened. That
Yeah, yeah, shark fights and being in the in asylum. Yeah. Wow,
yeah,
that's so interesting.
yeah,
Maybe I'll have to pick those up sometime.
yeah.
So the game featured a variety of pre-order bonuses and promotional content prior to release. Most interestingly, Microsoft live streamed a survival billboard marketing event on Twitch. 8 contestants standing in front of a Southward Street billboard were subjected to different harsh weather conditions, which were voted on by Twitch's viewers. The contestant enduring the weather longest received a Tomb Raider themed trip. What's that trip? You first of all, the plane crashes on the way, and then you get thrown into the ocean.
You
That's
slide
enjoy the
down a
trip.
mountain.
Yeah, and then you have to like kill whatever local wildlife to survive and wear their skins. So enjoy that.
I also looked up a clip of this, and it's like literally they're just throwing like pounds of snow at them.
It reminds me of those Big Brother like
Yeah,
challenges where
it
they're
was
like
like
on the
that.
wall with the
Hmm.
water. Yeah,
Um, I did also tried to look into it and be like, okay, so what did the Tomb Raider themed trip entail? And I just couldn't find anything. So
because the people died
they
on the way
died.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they wanted to keep that hush hush.
Yeah. The game was supported by downloadable content, including a definitive edition, which is the one we played, 4 DLC episodes, an endurance survival mode, new costumes, and even limited VR support, which I did not know. But apparently, that's only for the one of the Croft Manor DLCs, probably the haunted
Ooh,
one, if I had to guess.
ew, screw that.
Yeah. Hopefully, time depending, we are going to talk more about the DLC later. If we do run out of time, we're going to make it another episode. So,
So, as far as reception, Rise of the Tomb Raider received generally positive reviews according to review aggregator Metacritic, and it currently sits at an average of 87%. So, in particular, the graphics, environments, expanded tombs, animation, and production value were praised, as well as Luddington's performance and Laura herself. Reactions to the story were more mixed, and some felt negatively towards the combat and the amount of collectibles. So I like really agree with all of that, except for the collectibles because I love those. But in terms of like the story, I do think that was. We'll get into it with the with our scores, but I think that was the weak point of this game.
yeah. And here's another spoiler alert. This is almost definitely my least favorite of the three games. Um,
Same.
but I have heard some people say it's their favorite, so different
Who
strokes.
are who are they? I want to meet them.
As far as the amount of collectibles, I can sort of get it. Like, think about how long we spent in the geothermal valley. Um,
Yeah, for me though, that's not like a number of collectibles issue. They should have been more spread out. Like that, it was annoying to be in that area for so long. It's like, dude, we get it. Like there's like,
yeah.
you know, yeah.
In the third game, I was starting to get really tired of as cool as an area as it was Kawakyaku. It's like, Jesus Christ, there's 4,000 collectibles here.
Yeah, I think they just need to spread them out more and like those I wouldn't mind a game where obviously some of the areas are going to be like, more like expansive, but maybe they don't need to be that big and like have that many collectibles in them.
Yep. So, some gaming journalists were concerned about Rise's sales since it was released on the same day as Bethesda. Bethesda's what? Oh, I missed that part. Some other big Bethesda game. Oh, I remember. It was Fallout 4.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Microsoft, though, felt that the games would not compete with each other. It was the fourth best-selling game in the UK and Ireland in its week of release, debuting at number 4 behind Fallout 4, Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, and FIFA 16. To be fair, those are 3 huge games. But
Yeah, I think that was kind of like not smart of them because like in terms of feeling the games wouldn't compete, because I have played, yeah, I'm like as a gamer, I like Fallout and Tomb Raider, so I don't know why they thought that.
yeah, according to Square Enix, its initial commercial performance was, quote, solid, and that they were satisfied with the sales. This is a good thing because I think it was the original Tomb Raider where like they came back being like they said it fell well below expectations or
Oh
something.
man, I didn't
But
know
then
that.
like they said what their expectations were and it was like some insane number. It's like, really?
It's like,
Most
let's calm down.
yeah. According to Square Enix, it's in the oh, I already read that. Digitally, the Windows version sold 3 times better than the Xbox One version in its first month of release. Interesting. That is weird. The game had sold over 1 million copies by the end of 2015 and nearly 7 million copies by November 2017. It won several awards, particularly for the character Lara Croft and the performance by Camilla Luddington. Phew, I know I said there was a lot of history here, but that was a lot. A lot of
Man.
info. But with that out of the way, we're going to take a quick break before we move on to the story. Do you actually need a break?
No.
Okay, let's keep going then. I'm good too. And we are back. Lauren, you ready to jump into what the heck Laura's gotten into this time?
What crazy hijinks has our Laura gotten herself into this time? Let's find out.
Before I forget, I've had this thought before we started the review. It's like, I wonder if I'm gonna fuck up and call Lauren Laura or vice versa at
I
all.
hope so. I hope you do. And if you don't, I'm gonna personally be offended because yeah, I would love to be compared to her.
There we go.
Also, that song was called The Car Chase. That was the least car chase sounding song I've ever heard in my life.
I think it's actually from the soundtrack of Beautiful Mind, but they used it in some promotional material.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. I mentioned that the soundtrack of this game is kind of
Meh.
take it or hit or miss. So like,
Yeah.
I saw that this was in like some YouTube playlist. I'm like, I have to take the good songs where I can get them.
Yeah, they're few and far between, so
Yep. So forewarning before we really get into it, it's been a minute since we actually finished this game. Like, when do you recall like around when we finished it? I feel like it was like mid last year, maybe even spring.
yeah, I want to say, yeah, it was a while ago because I think was this the first game we played through together as a
No,
group?
because we played through the first one together as well.
Oh yeah, duh. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it's been a while. It's been quite a while. So we're a little rusty.
And the
So
story's kind of forgettable, so we might be
yeah.
struggling a little bit here. So bear with us.
Yeah. Fake fans.
Yeah, right. The so just as a quick synopsis, in the first game, Laura was on an expedition with her crew of people, and of course there was a shipwreck. Long story short, she went through some shit and learned how to become a survivor, and she sort of became a badass and she's fine with killing people and all that shit now. Yeah, so that's where we're at. Oh, and at the end of the first game, we learned that there was like some kind of secret organization called Trinity that was sort of like behind the events of the first game.
I love your summary. Lara went through some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, she really did. And now she's a murderer. So that's all you need to know about the first game.
Yeah, a lot of people she cared about died, and yeah, so
She went to like a
Oh.
haunted ass island to where there was like a possessed queen affecting the weather. It was a whole thing.
her best friend isn't talking to her anymore. That we
Yeah, more
mentioned
importantly
earlier.
than all of that, than the possessed queen, her BFF, and her fell out. So
Yeah. And for those that don't know, aren't familiar with the Tomb Raider franchise, Lara Croft is an archaeologist. Her father was a famous archaeologist. She grew up in like with a silver spoon in her mouth. Like she's loaded. She has this amazing house, and
yeah. It's called a manor. If you've ever heard
Yeah.
of that, it's pretty fancy.
Sorry, I've never seen one in person.
No, never. They wouldn't let my peasant ass anywhere near that place.
Yep. So this game actually takes place 1 year later, and basically Laura is struggling to, she's almost in like she needs therapy because
Yeah.
she's kind of fucked up from everything that happened in the first game. She's got like PTSD shit, and she's sort of looking for answers to all like the mysteries that were uncovered during that first game. And so she is like going through her dad, Lord Croft's research, and she like idolizes her dad, and he's dead. And we'll come to learn more about that, the events surrounding that a little later. She kind of finds some notes from her dad about the lost city of Katesh, and apparently there's like some kind of secret to immortality there. So she's like going through her dad's notes one night, and then we meet a new character, Anna, who was Lord Croft's girlfriend, I guess. They weren't married. And so she kind of warns Laura that getting obsessed with her father's work is what drove him to ruin and suicide. I guess this is, if we didn't already know it, everybody thinks that Lord Croft killed himself.
Like out of nowhere, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Lauren doesn't want anything to do with Anna's shit. It kind of seems like she doesn't really like Anna that much.
Well, and later in the DLC, so well, we could get there, but there is something that happens in the DLC where you're like, okay, you don't like her.
Yeah. Justifiably so, as we'll learn in a little while. But
Yeah, she was right.
yeah. So Lara goes on an expedition to the Forgotten Cities in northwestern Syria, hoping to find the tomb of the prophet of Constantinople, which was a key figure in the Katesh legend. And her friend from the first game, Jonah, comes along with her as well. So the tomb, when they get there, the tomb's empty. I'm pretty sure she gets separated from Jonah somewhere in here by an avalanche.
Inevitably, yes.
Yeah. So we already sort of complained about this, but we were happy that Jonah was back, but then the game like constantly separates them. I feel like the third game did a much better job of making that less annoying.
Way better because Jonah and Lara, I love their relationship because it's like totally platonic and he like looks out for her, she looks out for him. I love it. So it was a source of great frustration in this game that they could never be together for more than literally 5 minutes. Like it
Yeah.
felt like that was it.
Jonah!
No.
So while she's in this tomb that she has found that's empty, Trinity drops in. And apparently Trinity is, quote, an ancient order of knights turned paramilitary organization investigating the supernatural. And their task force leader, Constantine, who is the main villain of this game, more or less. That makes it sound cooler than they really are, but it's literally like just bad guys in, tactical gear.
Yeah, the absolute most generic like paramilitary group you can imagine. That's Trinity. So
Yeah. They do give them some more interesting backstory in the third game, but that's not what
Yeah.
we're talking about today.
oh,
So Laura manages to get out of that situation. I think she literally hides in a coffin and like bursts out of it at him or something. That sounds right.
pretty sweet. Just hanging among the bones.
Yeah. So as Laura's running away, she finds a symbol etched into the tomb, and it links to a book on Russian religious history that she has seen in her father's study back at the mansion. And there she learns of an artifact called the Divine Source, which is said to be capable of granting immortality. And that's going to be the MacGuffin we're after in this game. So
What is MacGuffin? I've never heard of that word.
um, it's basically like just a plot object that is there to forward the plot.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
yeah.
I want to use that.
Um, I'm trying to think of other examples that you would know of, but I'd have to think about it.
Okay.
So after arguing with Jonah, Jonah doesn't think that they should be going after this. Jonah, and that's just a theme. Jonah's always like, "This is stupid, Laura," and he's usually right. But
Yeah.
they agree to go together. But a Trinity assassin infiltrates the mansion and steals the book. And through a sequence of events, they decide we need to go to Siberia now. So I guess I got it backwards earlier when I said Syria versus Siberia.
Yeah, you start in the cold and then you go to like the hot climate.
Right.
Yes.
So in Siberia, Laura and Jonah are, of course, separated by an avalanche. So I guess that's the avalanche part.
yes.
So you lose him for a while. Laura continues alone, and she ends up in like this Soviet era installation base of Trinity. This was like the first big hub area. Am I remembering that right? I'm thinking
Yeah.
of like, yeah.
Yeah, and this was the first place I think we really dealt with combat, like in this little Soviet base. Yeah.
Yeah. She's caught trying to retrieve the book and is imprisoned with Anna. So at first she thinks that like Anna has been captured as like leverage against her. But I think this is actually one of the more memorable scenes. Anna's like tied to a chair and they start to like torture Anna to make Laura give what she knows up about the divine source. And then it's like, she's not going to talk. And so Anna's like, stop. And because they were acting like they were literally about to kill her. And this is where you
Yep.
learn that Anna herself is a Trinity agent and she's like high up there and that Constantine is her brother.
Oh my God.
They, and Anna asks Laura to join Trinity, but of course Laura's not going to even entertain that at all. So they take her to the Gulag.
The Gulag.
I remember at this part thinking, oh, they're sort of setting up something interesting here with Anna and all that. And it is interesting, but they never really do enough with it. I feel like that plot line never realizes its full potential, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it really did have a lot of potential. Like, so I believe Anna was Laura Croft. He was her dad's partner for a while. So like she had been in Laura's life for a long time. So this betrayal is like pretty crazy. Like that's pretty intense. And I feel like they could have built on that more than they did.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Also, this may make me seem stupid, but like for a while during the story, I thought that Anna and Constantine were like lovers, not
Not stupid at
siblings.
all. Not stupid at all. And until you just said that it was her brother, I still thought they were lovers. So until a minute ago, I had forgotten that they
If
weren't.
you read
So
all the documents, it almost does come across as like Constantine being a little, or them being a little too obsessed with each other.
I was
But
like, you're cheating on Lord Croft. Like
yeah.
these hoes ain't loyal. I was like, okay, but yeah, it's her brother.
So in the Gulag, she meets a man named Jacob, who is going to be an important character. He's like this older, scruffy, like a character you would look at and be like, "Oh, okay, Dad." Like he's pretty hot,
He,
but
he is, yeah.
and if he like tries to get her, she breaks out of her cell, and he tries to get her to free him. He like tells her he's the only one that knows where to go and shit like that. And there's actually a good line here where when he's questioning her ability to do whatever it is she needs to do, she's like, "You don't know how far I've come." So that's a
We
good
love
line
personal growth. Yes.
there. Yeah. But she does free him reluctantly, and they escape the Gulag with Trinity in pursuit. He like kind of helps her out of some jams, and she kind of earns her trust a little bit as they go along.
Yeah. So now we have like a little partner in crime, and it's like if we can't like hang with Jonah, at least we can hang with like kind of hot Jacob. So
Right.
yeah.
Um,
s-
Go ahead.
oh, did you have something to say? I was gonna move on to the next section.
Oh, it's just that during the chase, Laura ends up like kind of almost drowning, and Jacob dives in and saves her. And apparently, you learn that he's the leader of the people that live in this area, the native people. I forget the name of the tribe, but they're those people that live in the geothermal valley. And she agrees to help them out and go against Trinity because apparently Trinity's about to like wage war on these people because they won't give up the divine source and it's what they know and all that shit.
Yeah. So now Laura feels like a little indebted. Not maybe not indebted, but she's got, she's taken to Jacob a little bit because he literally saved her life. So
Right.
she helped him out of the cell. He helped her out. So they're like a little duo. So now the two of them, they reach the Valley of the Hot Springs, like Scott just
Geothermal Valley.
said, geothermal valley that we were in for 500 years.
This is the biggest hub
And
area in the game.
yeah, and you're in it for a long time. And like we said, you keep returning back to it. So, um, yeah, so Jacob's the leader of the inhabitants of the geothermal valley. Oh, they're called the remnants.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And they're the descendants of the prophet's followers. So Trinity has been like repeatedly attacking this group and they're justifying the slaughter as God's will. There's a lot of religious themes, not just in this game, actually, like kind of throughout.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Da Vinci Code, like with all that kind of stuff. It reminds me a little bit of that.
I don't know if we're getting ahead of ourselves here, or I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but
Hmm.
there is one segment of the story where Trinity like does do a full on like kind of war on the geothermal valley, and
Yeah.
that's a pretty cool part because it's like they pulled out all the stops, like the
Ooh.
helicopter attacking and the other villagers fighting with you and stuff like that.
That was cool because like you knew that that was coming. So it was like you were preparing for battle. And then it was like,
Hmm.
yeah, total onslaught. Very like Crusades kind of
Yeah.
vibes. So Lara soon discovers that Anna suffers a terminal illness. Don't know what they if they say what it is, but cancer, I don't know. But she's sick. And so that's part of her reason for seeking the divine source is to help, cure herself.
Correct me if I'm
So
wrong. This is not something that gets. Maybe I'm wrong. Set up in a cutscene. I feel like you find that out through documents. I could be wrong, but
no, I don't recall any cutscene where it's like, I'm sick, Lara. Like I don't remember anything like that. So I think you do just find out through the game. And I just was like,
I do remember a scene or two between Constantine and Anna where she like is coughing a lot or something, but
yeah, if anybody ever coughs in anything, a movie, a game, a
dead.
play, dead in like a day. Yeah, y'all,
Yeah.
yeah. Your days are numbered. Um, so Jacob warns Lara that the divine source is real, but it's not what she expects it to be. So she remains undeterred and she then sets out to find something called the Atlas, which is an artifact that shows the way to Katesh, which is, what was in her father's writings and kind of her goal to reach. So Jacob, the leader of the remnants, he has a daughter named Sophia, like an adult daughter. It doesn't look like he should be able to have like a daughter this age. She looks kind of like Lara's age. She's like a redhead, like girl in her 20s. Um,
But this is another spoiler for later. But we later find out that Jacob's like 1,000 years old or some shit.
yeah, so then it made sense. But I remember when we met her, I was just like, how old was he? Like when
She
when
kind of looks like discount Aloy from.
she does, yeah, she looks like Dollar General Aloy for sure. So Sophia, the daughter, she warns Lara of these beings called the Deathless Ones, and they are the immortal guardians of Katesh. So no biggie, no big
They're
deal.
like
Just
big mummy skeleton knight guys, something like that.
yeah. So Lara ends up finding the Atlas. It's located in the archives beneath the ruins of a cathedral. She's later reunited with Jonah, and he was found by Jacob's group, the Remnants, and brought to the valley.
Wow, I
Um,
can't believe it was this long since we were separated from Jonah because like this is like 20, 30 hours into the game depending on how
this
quickly
is
you play. But
yeah, this is a while later. Yeah, we lost him, yeah, quite a while ago. So soon after that, she discovers the path to Katesh. Trinity forces return to the valley. They take the Atlas that we just found and they capture Jonah. So again, we are separated.
yep.
Lara returns to the Gulag to find Jonah, but Constantine mortally wounds him. Oh, this part I was like, if you kill Jonah, I swear to God, after we've only been with him for such a short period of time, I was about to
You
be
just chucked
pissed.
the PS4 through the window.
Yeah, I run it over with my car because I'm not going to let you hurt me again.
Where's
Um,
this Rihanna Pratchett woman? We need to talk.
yeah, what's your address, Rihanna? So Lara brings Jonah to Jacob, who heals him. Hmm, interesting. Upon witnessing Jonah's rapid recovery, Lara realizes that Jacob is the prophet and he is given immortality by the divine source.
What a
So,
twist.
quite a twist.
Yeah, so we're actually getting towards the end here, but so Trinity is advancing on a glacier that looms over Katesh, and Lara is forced to like take this really dangerous path to get there. But of course, just another day for Lara. Um, you sort of like find journals written by Trinity agents as you're going through this area, and she sort of realizes the truth about Jacob warning her against finding the divine source because apparently it bestows immortality at the cost of one's self. I'm not sure I understand what that means, considering because I mean he's still there. Maybe he's just
And
like kind of
he
hollow
looks
inside.
good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. You're not making it sound that bad, Jacob. I would still want to find
Yeah,
it.
right. So Trinity breaks through the ice and they enter the chamber that houses the divine source. And at this point, like Sophia shows up along with the remnants, and she like helps Laura battle her way towards Trinity in the chamber. And you get ambushed by Constantine here, and I think there's a little boss fight. I don't really remember it that well, though, if I'm being honest. But she ends
Nope.
up mortally wounding him. And before he dies, Constantine tells Laura that her dad did not commit suicide, but was assassinated by Trinity. Dun dun dun!
Bum, bum,
Didn't see that
bum.
coming. Um, Lara goes into the chamber where the divine source, and Anna has already retrieved it. So Jacob and Lara try to like reason with Anna, but of course Anna's just like not. I mean, she's got it. She's not going to give up now. I think there might be a scene where it looks like she thinks about it or something, but the deathless ones are closing in now. So and there's like crazy lights flying around everywhere. This is like a really intense part.
Mhm.
Anna activates the divine source, but she is overwhelmed by its power, and that gives Lara a chance to pick it up and smash it to pieces, which causes all the deathless ones to perish. Um, so Anna's like really torn up about this. It's like, I wonder why she couldn't harness its power. Maybe because she was too sick or just bad intent. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe because her intentions like were so selfish, like not pure. I don't know. But yeah, she couldn't hang.
But of course, Jacob's immortality is also lost, but he's like happy that he's finally going to be able to rest. Doesn't he like literally disintegrate into ashes or something?
It's very after the snap. It's
Yeah.
very I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark. Yeah.
Yeah. He assures Laura that she has made a difference, and then he peacefully disintegrates.
Peacefully. Great.
Two
That
words that
description.
usually don't go together.
Yeah, that's really a funny way to describe it. But yeah, he did seem like tortured by his immortality. Like, I don't feel like it went into it a ton, but basically, he was like ready to go. Because who knows how many, I mean, kids he saw that lived their whole lives and died, and he's still around. So yeah, he's like ready to
Yeah,
peacefully disintegrate. So after all those crazy events,
this is the ending now.
yeah, wow. We really zipped through that. But really there's not a ton of like story in this game, I don't feel.
I was
Like
telling
nothing.
Lauren before this episode that because I didn't remember it super well, I had thought about going back and watching the cutscenes, and it was like 3 to 4 hours. I was like, how?
Is it like 0.25 speed? Like how are they
Right.
4 hours of cutscenes? Yeah, but after that big battle, after Jacob's gone, it's 2 weeks later, and Lara and Jonah are at Croft Manor, and they're looking over their next expedition. Lara vows to investigate more of the world's mysteries, and she wants to thwart Trinity's plans because Trinity is still very much a thing. Like they're still like a menace, like to the world.
That is one thing I liked, even though they're kind of generic for enemies. I did like that they were like sort of an overarching thread in this trilogy.
Me too. Yeah, they're not like they get cooler in the third one or like more compelling, but I do like that there was some consistency across the trilogy.
Yep.
I also love this. I love anytime a game at the end like sets up like a little, taste of maybe what the next one's going to be. Love that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that so much. So there is a post-credit scene, and in that scene, it's 2 weeks before Lara and Jonah leave Siberia. Lara asks Anna if she killed her father. Anna says no, she denies it, and she admits that Trinity gave her the order,
So even though she
but
was ordered to do it, like she
she
didn't.
didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever. That doesn't, I don't like you just
Yeah.
because you didn't do that. That's like a low bar of morality, Anna.
Yeah.
But before she can reveal anything else, she is killed by a sniper. who asks his unseen superior about killing Lara and is ordered to stand down for the time being. Did we watch this through right away, or was it like later on that we watched this? I felt like there was a time gap, but anyway, yeah, Anna's dead.
I was really frustrated by this because, like I was saying earlier, like Anna is an maybe not an interesting character, but like an interesting. She could have been interesting, and she survived. So like maybe they would do something with her in the third game as well. But no, they just kill her off here. I was very mad after seeing that scene.
It was such a throwaway death too, and it was like put in a post-credit scene. It was like, are you kidding me? Yeah, it was I'm not a fan of this scene at all.
I did look this up though. The two voices that you hear that snipe them, apparently it's Rourke and Dr. Dominguez from the third one.
Really?
Yeah, like Rourke was the
I
one that sniped Anna, and he's talking to Dominguez on the phone or whatever.
I, I love that. I love when games are like I just said, when they're planning ahead and they're like sprinkling little things like from a future game. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool too. It almost made I actually wanted to go back and watch that to see if I like recognized the voices or something, but
That is
never got
awesome.
around to it. So yeah, that's the story. We kind of like hinted along the way our general how we feel about it, but like overall thoughts for you, Lauren?
If I had to say one word, I would say underwhelming. Like there was definitely potential, like we were discussing, but it just felt like none of it panned out to be like I don't feel like this game like narratively like made me feel much at all. And I like get sucked into games, like I get very invested in storylines, but I just like couldn't get into this one.
Yeah, it's just kind of, I mean, we've already said it, but forgettable. And like I remember, of course, I remember Jacob, um, but like and Anna, but other than them, like all the characters other than Lara are like kind of throwaway, forgettable. Sophia was cool, but I only remember her having like two or three scenes of any importance. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I just the first one and the third one stand out way more in my mind, story wise.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it through that lens because we played the third one not too long ago, and that one storyline wise really just blows this one out of the water. Like really memorable characters. Yeah, just a lot more compelling. So
Yeah, like all that shit with Unaratu alone is like way more compelling than anything that happens in this game.
it
Um,
really is. Yeah, with her son and everything, and then the time you get to spend with Jonah. Jonah's doing his thing. Yeah, it's just they kind of missed the mark with this one. I didn't dislike playing this game. I enjoyed it, but storyline is usually like a strong point for me, or it's a thing I care a lot about when playing a game, and this one just like missed the mark.
yep. Um, I think we kind of covered like favorite scenes and parts and shit as we went along, but there was only a few super memorable moments, like we were saying. Um, so yeah, I guess I'm ready to move on to the gameplay if you were.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. So the gameplay. Not really sure where to start here. It's a third-person action adventure game. Um, Other than that, like if you've played Uncharted, it's sort of similar to that, but like in my opinion, this one's way more in depth with its different mechanics that you can do. At least the first Uncharted. Um, so I guess when I think about just talking about the non-combat stuff, when you're not actually fighting, the main thing that stands out to me is how much time and effort you spend just climbing shit
That's a
everywhere.
lot of the game. Yeah, if you boil down like the amount of time you spend doing different things in this game, that's a big chunk of it, which I didn't mind. Like I thought the like you use your little pickaxes. I thought that was really cool. You're zip lining all over the place. I think that's a really fun part of this game. It's just getting around the environment.
Yeah, it sounds like it kind of may have sounded like I was complaining there for a second, but like I like that too, like climbing
Yes,
around.
but it is a lot of climbing and oh, and don't forget falling down mountains all the time. So
Yes. The one thing I did appreciate is that she uses two pickaxes to climb in this one, whereas in the first one I believe she was like one handed with one pickaxe climbing up huge cliffs. I was like, really? Like
come
just the upper
on.
body strength on this girl, Jesus Christ.
Unrealistic expectations. That is crazy. Yeah, I remember when she pulled out the second one, we were like, oh, damn. And it's so wild to think that she did just use one in the first game. It's like, are you kidding
Yeah.
me?
Don't get me wrong, it's still unrealistic as
Oh,
far as like
extreme,
the shit she
extremely.
gets into in this game, but
Yes.
um so a lot of the elements return from the first game, but we haven't talked about the first game, so I do feel like we should spend a little bit of time going over them.
Sure.
Um, you get bows and arrows. There's a lot of them. I feel like there's a wider variety of weapons in this one as well. Like you get six different types of bows rather than a couple.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I feel like that's not something, because that's not like my thing, like really customizable weapons. I just like kind of don't care. I'm sure there's players out there that do care, but there are way more in this. Like it literally is like six bows, like seven pistols, like five types of shotguns. It's
Yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah. Um, the rope arrows from the first one return. So basically, you can like attach a rope to one of your arrows and use it to like pull switches and create zip lines and pull open roped doors. Uh, I like those. I think they're pretty useful and cool.
They're my favorite type of like special arrow. So there's also this game also had explosive fire arrows are pretty legit. So there's fire arrows, explosive arrows, and I think poison arrows were in this game as well. Almost
Yeah,
never used those, but yeah, I mean it was fun to like craft different kinds of arrows and use them in different scenarios.
the poison arrows were useful for the animals. I felt like.
Oh yeah, because hunting sucks. So then it's like, okay, well I'm just gonna poison you.
Well, not just that the fact that the hunting sucks, but like there's a couple times where you fight like vicious animals that are after your ass. Like,
Like a bear or like
yeah,
something like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
remember the lynx? That thing was a
Dude.
bitch.
It's like, "Meow, meow." Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like, how many times do I have to shoot you in the face with a shotgun before
yeah.
you leave me alone?
There was never any animals in the third one, by the way, that I felt that way with. Like they all died in a realistic amount of shots, more or less.
Yeah, even when you're like, there was like a battle where it was like two jaguars, but the lynx was we were joking that that was the most difficult enemy in this entire game was this random lynx you had to kill. We were like going after a collectible or something. I don't remember, but
Yeah, it's like it's not a story encounter, I don't think, or whatever.
no. But you were playing, and I was so happy I wasn't. That was like a long encounter.
I remember there's one cave that you start to get into, and then like a fucking snow leopard comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Uh, that was pretty. That was a pretty challenging. However, the bears you fight a few bears during this, and they are challenging. They take
Yeah.
some damage.
Hmm.
Well, while we're talking about the wildlife, there we have talked about how there is a hunting mechanic where you can, hunt uh, squirrels and warthogs and just various local fauna. I'm trying to remember if there's any that stand out, but I can only think of the capybaras, which is not
Oh
this
my
game.
God, me too. I was like, not capybara, and that's what kept popping up in my head. They're just so memorable. Yeah, it's just like normal animals. Like, did this one
The
have deer? I know the first one did. I don't know if this one had
Probably.
deer, but yeah.
The idea is you can, kill these animals, and then you take their pelts or whatever, and that's materials you can use to craft stronger weapons and shit like that. However, we never really ran into a need to do that. We were always more or less had what we needed supply wise.
Which is another reason I like these games because I am not so good when like resources are really limited. But yeah, we were always like pretty much fully stocked up. And I know you could use certain skins and like upgrade your ammo pouches and like your like arrow carrying capacity, stuff like that. But yeah, we didn't hunt much at all.
Yeah. So I don't know why they added those in. It's kind of an annoying mechanic, and like even some of the upgrades make you better at hunting, and it's like no, those are always the last ones we get.
Yeah, it's like I don't care. I don't want to be good.
One thing that this game added in was there swimming in the first game at all? I'm not
Maybe
sure.
no.
I'm thinking no.
I think no, because I think when we were playing this one, we are like, oh, like we can swim. Oh, that's so cool. Because then, like in the third one, they build on it even more, like with
Hmm.
the piranhas and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it was new to this game.
We're having a hard time not talking about the third one a lot because
Yeah,
we
sorry.
finished that much more recently and we liked it more.
And it's
But
better.
the yeah,
Sorry.
the swimming, I did like the swimming in this game. Early on, it's a little annoying because it feels like Laura can't hold her breath for shit. Um, but it gets
Yeah,
better as you upgrade later on.
yeah, you're under the water for like 5 seconds, and all of a sudden, like blood spatters start popping up on the screen. It's like, okay, girl, like you can
Yeah,
fly off mountains, but you can't swim for 3 seconds. Okay.
there is one part where you're like under a sheet of ice and there's a bunch of Trinity guards on top of it, and you have to like poke your head out of
Ooh.
like fishing holes to like stealth
Yeah.
them. That part was cool.
Yes, yes.
Um, let's see here. You can also dive, which I had a really hard time figuring out the controls for. Usually it was Lauren that did the diving. Oh, remember there was like one achievement where you had to like dive perfectly into a well, and then we couldn't get it to trigger, and then it turned out that it was an achievement, not a trophy. Like they weren't 1 to 1.
Yeah, we were like looking up YouTube videos. We're like, is this a glitch? Like, yeah, you
Yeah,
basically had to dive off the roof of this like shack into this well, and it just was not happening for us. But yeah.
yeah. We kind of already alluded to the crafting and collecting materials. You can like cut off branches and shit to make arrows, pick up little flowers that you can use to, add poison to your arrows, just shit like that.
Yeah.
Um, you can gather shit to make more ammo. I'm not sure how that works, but yeah,
Yeah. Use some cloth and some leaves, and now you have bullets.
yeah,
Don't question it.
there you go. There's also survival instinct, which is basically
Love.
you click in your little right stick, and it sort of highlights all the things of interest around you, whether it be materials or bad guys or explosives, or in the case of tombs, like things you should maybe be paying attention to as part of the solution to the puzzle. I think there's a hard mode where that just is turned off. Which, can you imagine how much harder the game would be?
Yeah, why do people hate themselves like that? I don't know. I used this, I'm gonna say constantly. I'm gonna say I used it literally constantly to the point that it was probably annoying because it makes a sound. It's like boom, like when you
Yeah.
press it, like it makes a sound, but I just found it to be very useful.
I wish you could set it up to where you like it was a toggle, like on or off, instead of you
Oh
press it and then
yeah.
it fades away after a few seconds.
I also wish there was a way because when you would hit that when you were in a challenge tomb or just like a tomb, um, Laura will give you a hint. It's like, I think I need to swing up there on that platform. And it's like, I wish you could just make that not be a thing because it's like, yeah, we get it. We understand, Laura.
Nice segue, because next on the subject list here is the challenge tombs. Um, so, like we were saying earlier, they did a good job of improving on these from the first one. I feel like the puzzles were much more grandiose and intricate.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, However, because we played the third game so recently, I don't think I could reliably recall, ones that were from the second one in particular. Did any stand out in your mind?
No, I mean, when I think of the mirror one, but that was the third game. Now, I want to say, because I know the third game did have one with a ship, but I think the second one also had one with a ship where a ship was like somehow suspended or something. I don't know. But
That sounds familiar.
yeah, but basically they were really cool. It was definitely an improvement from the first game because it's like, yeah, it's called Tomb Raider. Like there should be more tombs than there were in the first game. And even though we felt super stupid, they were a lot of fun. And at the end, you get to like open this thing and there's a book and you get to, learn the world's secrets.
I
So
think it literally gives you like a new skill or ability in this one, whereas in the first game, I think it was just experience points.
XP, yeah.
Um, I did just remember one. I think it was actually a DLC tomb though, but it was like there's a like a airplane suspended in the air that you
Uh-huh.
slowly comes crashing down as you solve the puzzle to get higher up in like this forest grove.
Yes.
That's like the only one I can remember right now though. Um, but yeah, I really like the tunes in this one, and that actually goes to, I would say, one thing this game probably has over the first one, not just the tombs, but there is a marked less focus on combat, which, not that the combat's bad, but Lauren and I are in agreement that that's like our least favorite parts of the game, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Another new addition to this game over the first one is they added outfits, so you can switch between different costumes. There's like a pretty good variety of them as well.
There's yeah, they're really cool. And this is I can't believe there weren't any different outfits in the first one. That's wild because it's a big part of the game to
Hmm.
me. And with this one, did different outfits have different like special abilities?
I think so.
Okay. I didn't really care about any of that. I was just like,
Right.
what are we feeling today, Laura? Like,
Yeah.
how do we want to look? Are we wearing the skull of a gazelle on our head, or are we wearing a black tank top and cargo pants? What do we want?
Yeah.
So
Right. And then like when we're in like the snowy areas, it's like, okay, let's make sure she's wearing a good jacket. Yeah.
we gotta bundle up. We gotta wear our little tundra outfit. Yeah.
Another DLC also added the ability to like dress up as like classic PS1 era Lara Croft
The
costumes.
teal tank top
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah.
So that we never did that, but I did think that was like a cool feature, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was actually watching somebody stream Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and they had on one of those classic outfits, and it got to like an important cutscene, and like her mouth doesn't even move.
Where it literally looks like the old one where she's all pointy and like
Yeah.
polygon-ish. Dude, oh man, I cannot imagine playing through this game like that. It's cute and like fun, like fan service kind of. But yeah, you're like in an emotional cutscene and it's
Yeah.
like
If
yeah,
I was replaying this game and it was just me, like there wasn't anybody new watching it, I might do that just for the lulz. But yeah, I agree with you.
yeah.
Base camps return from the first game. Basically, those are your save points. You can upgrade, do your skill tree shit there, and spend your skill points and change your weapon loadout and what outfit and all that. Sometimes, if something significant happened in the story, there Lara will go on a diatribe, um, which is a cool idea. But in practice, it's like, okay, I don't want to sit here and listen to what you have to say. And if you're not just listening to what she's saying, then it's like you're focused on your upgrades or whatever and not really catching everything she's going on about.
So like when she's talking, like if you advance and then go to like upgrade weapons or like go to the skill tree, does she stop talking or does she keep on
I'm
with
pretty
her
sure
what
she
she's
keeps going.
okay. Yeah. I mean, a lot of times what she was saying was cool, but like the reason you're sitting down at a base camp is just to like either quickly save or to like do the things you got to do. And it's like, okay, wrap it up, Laura.
And you can also use the base camps as fast travel points, which is nice. But that did just make me remember something.
Hmm.
That's a big downer on all three of these games. Is there's no mini map, and so as
Unforgivable.
yeah, as collectible, Lauren and I are both like 100 percenters, and it made the game so hard. Like we would have to constantly open the map, check it where we were in position to what we were looking for, and it's just a big pain in the ass.
I just really want to know, like, what is the reasoning behind that? Because it's a huge negative to me, like a really huge negative. So I'm just like, why? I don't get
Yeah.
it.
But I guess that's about it for the exploration. We'll move on to our favorite thing here, combat. um, Combat's pretty generic when you think of like third-person shooters, I guess. You just have these Trinity guys that are shooting their guns at you, pew pew, and you shoot back.
Yep.
Um, there is like cover mechanics where you can hide and like you can hide in the tall grass and shit like that.
Hmm.
Um, I did like. Well, I'm going to stop talking about the third game, but the third game really improved on the stealth mechanics as far as like covering yourself in mud and
Yes.
hiding in
Love
the
it.
ivy. That was not a thing in
Yes.
this one, I don't think.
No, it just was like tall grass. But I mean, that's pretty like standard and like that was something I enjoyed,
Yeah.
using. But yeah, they built upon it in the next one.
Lauren and I both have similar play styles in these combat sections where we try to remain stealthy as long as possible. Because a lot of times you can take out like half or more of the guys just by, being sneaky. Plunge your pickaxe into their throats. And
Yeah, the melee was cool because you would use your pickaxe, which was like pretty badass.
yeah, and you can, if you don't want to use your guns, you can actually like melee a little bit. I don't think it doesn't work well a lot of times, but
Yeah, the melee was a little like stubborn. It was like, okay, I'm pressing square or whatever it was, and it was a little difficult.
yeah. You can get different types of weapons. So like there is the bow that we talked about that has different types of arrows. Um, I tend to use the bow a lot, even more than the guns. We usually only bring out the guns when like it's an active firefight and they know where you are, kind of deal. Um, but I don't know why. I guess the bow is just easier for me to aim, and it's like boom, headshot.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like nice and sneaky and all that stuff. Yeah, the bow, especially once you upgrade it. I want to when you first start, it's like pretty like underpowered. It's like pretty lame. But then once you start like, upgrading it, it's more effective.
Yep. Um, let's see what else. There are things you can do to make combat more interesting that we didn't do very often. Like you can create distractions by throwing shit. You can craft explosives like nail bombs and shit like that. We did that a few times, but I get the feeling nowhere near as much as the game actually intended the player to.
Probably not. One thing that I do like, which is listed here, is so there would be like these red barrels like scattered around. So if it was like a bunch of Trinity people like right near one of these red barrels, if you just shot it with like I think you had to use a fire arrow, not a regular arrow, but it would like blow them all up. So then it was like you got rid of them with like in one felt swoop.
Yeah. And I think this is a new thing too. If you are above an enemy, it might be a skill you have to unlock, but you can like drop down on top of them and just like knife to the back of the head type deal. Insta
Pretty
kill.
tight. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say about combat? I feel like we kind of glossed over it, but
It says health regeneration there. So basically you would just heal over time. Like if you got injured, you would just, is that not how the first game was? You had to like take something?
I don't remember. I want to say it was different.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does slowly regenerate. You can heal in the middle of battle with like med kits if you need to heal right then. But I think I did appreciate the regeneration,
Oh,
as unrealistic
always.
as it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the combat. I'm just not a big shooter guy. I really value the more the exploration aspect of the game. So we always
Yes.
like just wanted to get through those sections as fast as we could and move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm in complete agreement. Yeah. It was pretty straightforward. No major complaints, just not our favorite thing.
Yeah. So maybe this should have gone more by the exploration, but talking about some of the gear you get as you move through the game, I remember you get a rebreather, which lets you breathe underwater like indefinitely. Am I remembering that right? Or is it
Yep.
just much
Yeah.
longer?
I want to say indefinitely.
Yeah. You get different tools that help you like improve your upgrades, I guess. At one point, you get this neat gadget that when it lets you like ascend zip lines, like
That
pull
is so
yourself up.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So like basically if you're trying to go up before, whereas before she would just have to like slowly like well not army crawl, but you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
you would just like zip on up. Yeah, that was like very handy.
hmm Um, you do get like an oil flask that lets you. I think that's when you get the ability to start making like Molotovs and shit.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think that's about it. I mean, there's other things listed here, but like for me, it's stuff like the pickaxes or the glow sticks. That's like I feel like she already just has those at the start of the
The
game.
glow
So
sticks is not even something you can control. It's like when you go into a dark cave, she's like crack, and then
yeah,
she has the glow sticks. So
right.
or torches sometimes. Yeah.
hmm There is an experience system. So like when you kill enemies or like accomplish certain missions or goals, you get experience, and those unlock skill points. Um, I've talked about this before. I'm not a big fan of skill trees in general and just like complex upgrade systems. So I would usually like either this might be the one time we made Corey put his hands on the controller.
He actually
Uh,
got to hold the controller.
yeah, that's another reason I wasn't too broken up about him not being here because like he's not a huge fan of these games, but
No, and especially this one in particular. Like we said, it's so forgettable. Like I feel like when we do the third one, like he'll be more into it. But yeah, this
yeah,
one he didn't like have to be here.
yeah. Um, Speaking of the skill tree, while we're on the subject, I remember that there were different like branches of the skill tree, kind of. How did you just feel about the? Okay, so there was brawler, hunter, and survivor. I have a link there if you want to look about at the different skills or whatever. But how'd you feel about it?
Yes. Well, so we're like we've been talking about, we're like very similar um gaming wise in a lot of ways, but I don't care about upgrading weapons a ton. Like I'll just do whatever I have like enough salvage. And salvage is just like little boxes of gears and stuff that you can use to like upgrade your stuff. I don't care about that, but in terms of like character upgrades, I do enjoy that. And I thought this game did a good job in terms of like breaking things down into broad categories. A lot of them were like really really handy, like a lot of like instant like stealth kill or a dodge kill move could
hmm
be really helpful. I mean, the group that I cared the least about was like hunter again, that was
Yeah,
more just like
fuck that.
survivalist. Yeah, who cares? Survivalist type stuff, but there were certain ones where you could craft more quickly. You could, oh, there was an arrow climber one where you could like shoot arrows into a wall. Now,
Oh,
how
that was
strong are
so
these?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one, I want to know, are these like made out of titanium or like
Right.
adamantium or what are these made out of? Because Laura would just throw her full body weight up on these arrows.
She like
But
climbs them. I think you can even do like monkey swings from them, if I remember
yeah,
right. So
yeah, it's like, okay. But yeah, a lot of these upgrades are very legit. It just is like how, like, what's your play style? What would be beneficial to you in the game? But I thought that they were really cool.
yeah. There is a language system. To be honest, I kind of forget how it works exactly, but like as you learn these, there's like three languages you can learn, and it like sort of allows you to find more collectibles around, if I remember right.
In this game it was murals because later on it's like monoliths, but this game is you study murals and it shows it's like a little symbol that'll start to fill up the more proficient you become with the language. I thought that was cool because again, it
Yeah.
just like anything that makes you like remember Laura's an archaeologist is fun. So
Right.
I liked
Not
it.
a bloodthirsty killer.
Yes, yes.
Um, I should mention there is an expedition mode, and I think they like create unique scenarios or like you replay pieces of the game with like kind of like a score attack type thing.
Oh.
Um, and I think there's like two different modes to that. Like you can either replay it as it was in the game, but there's also like a professional mode where you have all the equipment that you get later, and then you replay an earlier story part with that.
Like a new game plus kind of thing, sort
Kind of,
of
yeah.
vibe. Yeah, okay.
You unlock like collectible cards from that, but we didn't really touch it at all. The only time we touched it was that one DLC with the zombies in the Soviet base. That I think that was
Mm-hmm.
technically considered an expedition.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So don't look for any ratings on that here. Uh, Talking about some of the collectibles, it's pretty standard shit. You find relics around everywhere, and it's just like little historical trinkets where Laura will give you like, oh, this is the smoking pipe of the emperor from the Byzantine 16th century. It looks in very good conditions, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and some of these you can like rotate around and find little secrets on, which is kind of a neat touch, I guess.
No, I like it. Yeah. Was it ever like mind blowing or cool? Like,
Yeah.
so so.
Um, the next thing is documents. You can find those everywhere, and Laura sort of reads these aloud to you. There's lots
Oof,
of them, and like
lots.
to the point to where you kind of stop caring about what they say.
Because some of them are long, some of them are so long, and they would have like little like kind of like a series of documents that would like tell a story. So maybe there's like 10 documents in the story, and you learn about this one guy in Siberia or whatever. And normally I like this kind of thing, but it felt like they were relying on the documents a lot to like kind of advance storylines and like
Hmm.
so didn't love that. I feel like there were too many of these.
I feel like you learn a lot about Constantine and Anna's backstory through these, and it's like that. A lot of this shit seems like it could have been part of the main plot.
Yeah, it could have been a cutscene. And like we said, they weren't super clear because we thought that they were romantically together.
Hmm.
So
And not getting ahead of ourselves, but I remember even though the Baba Yaga DLC is great, I remember like the main bulk of what was actually going on there was also being told through the documents.
yeah, so
Um,
that just feels a little lazier. I don't know what, but I don't love it.
yeah. Um, and there's a lot of them. Jesus.
A lot.
There's backpacks. When you find those, it helps you. It like shows more shit on your map, I believe.
Yeah.
Survival caches that Lauren already mentioned, where you get lots of gear to upgrade your weapons. There's also some side missions you can do that various like villagers will give to you. It can be shit like find the three flags in the area, just shit like that. There's
Hmm.
challenges where it's like there's 16 buckets that you have to set fire to in this area. Um, those are fun, but the side missions are more so, but like the challenges I'm not a big fan of just because I feel like you almost have to have a guide for them or be really
Yeah,
on the lookout the entire time.
exactly.
And then there's also actual currency in this one, which is a new thing from the first game. Byzantine coins, because there's a shop that you can go to and buy like new guns and upgrades and shit. I think that it's ran by a defective Trinity guy, undercover type thing.
That was pretty cool. I liked the shop element because yeah, you could get stuff there that you wouldn't just naturally because like a lot of the ways you find these weapons, it's like you would find like, oh, a pistol part during this mission and then you'd find it. But this is a way to like get new things that you wouldn't find just naturally through the story.
Yeah. I think we've more or less covered like the enemies as we went along. The boars, I don't know, there were boars everywhere. I feel like sometimes I would be hunting them and then they would like attack me, and I was like, "Damn it, Pumbaa!"
A lot of Pumbas running around. Yeah.
The deathless ones, I don't. I mean, they were kind of scary at first, but at the end of the day, it ended up being not that different from fighting Trinity soldiers, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, they were pretty
Um,
similar.
yeah, I guess that's it for the main different elements of the gameplay. Um, what do you think about the gameplay overall?
Really good. This is the kind of game that I generally like where the combat is like not too difficult for me. Lot of cool like areas to explore, a lot of cool collectibles. Um, yeah, I liked it. Did you like it?
I did, and because it's a good thing that the gameplay is fun, because it really helps make up for the story in a lot of ways. Um,
Yeah.
the game's fun to play. There are some things that are like we're not so hot on the combat, and like because we are 100 percenters, there were several parts where we felt like we got really bogged down and just trying to get all the collectibles. There were a couple times where we played for several hours, and I think that's all we did in those sessions.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah. But yeah, it's the gameplay's fun. And I think probably the highlight for me is just traversing the area, like in all the different ways we talked about, like zip lines, climbing up the mountain with your pickaxe, all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff.
Um, but yeah, it's fun, and especially the traversal in the tombs. Despite this being my least favorite of the trilogy, I would still say this is a pretty good game. Um, so yeah, and we kind of touched on like all the things we really liked and really didn't like as we went along. Um, so we are going to skip the DLC talk today. We had more to say than I there was more to say than I thought there would be. Um, so I don't know if we'll do like a bonus episode or it'll be a full episode down the line, but we'll get it scheduled because I know that we really want to talk about Baba Yaga, and
Yes.
even
Croft
though
Manor.
yeah, Croft Manor as well. I have
Hmm.
lots I could say about Croft Manor, as you know.
Yes. Yeah. Block out 3 hours just for Croft Manor.
There you go.
Yeah, the DLC is legit. So I look forward to talking about that. Most
Right.
definitely. Yeah.
Well, you ready to get on and rate this bitch?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay. That was a banger. That
Yeah.
was that was sick. I'm into that.
There are some good ones on there. Um, so our categories today are story, combat, non-combat, visuals, audio, overall feel, and then of course our bonus category of final boss, which is going to be really hard because I don't remember it that well. But
Hmm.
so we do have all of our categories here today, and I also put a screenshot in here of what I rated the first Uncharted. I think that will help give me something to base my ratings off of today. Um, but yeah, so I'll let you kick us off with story, Lauren.
So that's tough because I don't want to literally tank this whole review with
Yeah.
my initial story rating. So, okay, let me hit the high points. So, I like Jacob a lot. I thought Jacob's storyline was really cool. The Anna storyline had a lot of potential. We learned some crazy stuff, like Lord Croft did not kill himself. It was a hit put out by Trinity. So, there were good things.
Hmm.
I just feel like they fell flat with the promise of what could have been. So, I'm going to give it a 5.
Okay. Honestly, I'm hovering at a a 5 or 6 as well. I
Yeah,
really was felt let down by all
me
of
too.
that.
Yep.
Um, I guess I'll be. Do I want to like? It's like, do I want to be mean or do I want to be generous today? Um,
Which side of the bed did you wake up on?
yeah. Uh, since you gave it a 5, I'll give it a 6.
Okay.
Just echoing what you said. It's like long periods where it felt like nothing happened, and so much like it. They had all the pinnings of a good story that ended up just falling flat.
Totally. Yeah. And oh, yeah. And I guess pacing would fall underneath this as well. I thought the pacing was not the best, and you were in certain areas for like a million and a half years. So that's a negative as well.
Which is funny considering if you think about it, or back in the history, there was like a little bit where he was like, pacing is as important as the story itself. It's like, well, maybe you should have.
I meant to comment at that point because it's like maybe go back to the drawing board because I don't
Yeah,
think you did a great job with pacing in this game. But
yeah. And so I did split up combat and non-combat for this game into their own subcategories. I felt like they were different enough to where that we could do that. So, what do you think of the combat?
so I'm gonna give this. I don't have like major complaints. I like a lot of the things like the different like the throwables and like the explosives and stuff. I'm gonna give it a 7.
Okay. Um, I think that I will also give it a 7 because even though it's not like anything super special to write home about, it's also like technically sound. It works
Hmm.
well. It never feels super unfair. It's not like it's not fun. It's just kind of stressful, I guess. And Lauren and I are just not good at shooters in general. So
No, but what I will say, and this is like a point in this game's favor, I've had combat turn me off of games to the point that I won't play them. And
mm,
this is not the case at all with this game. So, you know, that's why I gave it the rating I did.
yeah. Um, okay, so non-combat.
So this would be like what the environments and traversing and all that kind of stuff. That's what goes
Traversal, climbing around,
the
exploring,
tombs.
collectibles, tombs.
Ooh, okay. In that case, because I that's all my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give that a 9.
Okay. I agree. I'm going to give it a 9 as well because I think that's where these games really shine.
Hmm.
And it looks like I gave Uncharted an 8, and I do think that this game does that better. Um, so, yeah, I really enjoy the puzzle solving. The areas are beautiful. Well, we're about to get to that. But yeah,
Yeah.
visuals.
Yeah, so speaking of, so this is a really visually stunning game. Like we mentioned, there's a cool like diversity in the settings that you're in. So you're in like snowy Siberia at one point, and then you hop on a plane and you go to like a very like desert hot region. The tombs are gorgeous, like just like we said, very like larger scale. I really can't think of any of the visuals where I was like, looks bad. So I'm gonna give it a 9. I mean, everything can always be better, but I thought it was really good.
I agree. I think all three of these Tomb Raider games look fantastic. Um, so much so that when we go back and I mean, this game came out in 2015. When we go back and play them, I'm like just blown away. Like this looks like it could be like a current like modern game.
That is so true. Yeah, they really really held up well.
And it's kind of weird because like I know that these are popular games, but it also feels like they're not necessarily huge blockbusters. Maybe I'm mistaken about that, but it's like you never really hear a lot of people talking about these games per se. And it's I'm always surprised by just like the AAA production value that went into them. The only
Yeah.
the only thing
Yeah, I
graphically that I don't care for is I think they could have spent a little more time on Lara's hair.
Oh my God, excellent point. I was literally just thinking that there are times, and I know hair is like one of the most difficult things like to make look realistic, but but yeah, that's it could have been better with that. Like the way that it moves and stuff is not super realistic, but
Were you gonna say something else or?
no, well, just I was gonna echo your sentiment that I don't feel like I hear a ton of people talking about these games, and I'm just like, these are. I mean, I know we kind of like we didn't trash this one, but I feel like in general, like this is like a really solid trilogy. So I'm kind of surprised that I don't hear more about it. But
Yeah. Okay. Audio.
Okay, so we kind of touched on like the music's a little underwhelming, but I think the voice acting is like so good. Not just Laura, but I think all the characters are really good. Jonah's voice actor is really good.
I will say that the soundtrack, the reason it's not very good is because it's a very like cinematic soundtrack where the
Hmm.
music is more like accompanying the action and in the background, evoking certain moods more than like something melodic you would go and listen to by
Right.
yourself, which is the kind of music I prefer.
Mm.
Not the
Yeah.
cinematic, but like also, I guess that's what they were going for. I don't want to give it too much credit, but
Yeah, I mean, I just don't feel like anything stands out in particular, but again, like I think the voice acting is really really good, like especially Laura. I think she really sells it. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 7.
okay. I agree with you that Laura's voice actress is incredible.
Yeah.
Really good, really good. I don't really remember the voice acting of the other characters, but other than Jonah, but I also don't remember it ever taking me out of the game either.
I feel like Jacob had a good voice actor. Like he was
Yeah,
like seemed wise and
right.
all-knowing.
And the soundtrack is more or less take it or leave it. Uh, I see that I gave Uncharted a 7, so I'll stick with that as well because I feel similarly. That also has like a very movie soundtrack and good voice acting. So, and then our final category, overall feel.
Okay. So this is just like how I feel about the game summed up, like
Hmm.
overall feel. I'm teetering between two. I'm gonna say 7. No,
Okay,
should maybe 6?
it's up to
7.
you. It's your rating.
7, 7. I picked
Okay.
7.
You kind of shocked me for a second there when I said I'm going to give it 2. I was like, what? A 2?
Oh, can I give it a 0? No, I'm just kidding.
Negative. Um, I'm the same as you. Once again, I'm hovering between a 6 and a 7. But I feel like once you go below 7, people start thinking, is it a good game or no? Um,
Yeah, and I do think it's a good game. It's just because we know the potential of what a rebooted Tomb Raider game can be, that
mhm.
it just, yeah,
Yeah.
falls
So
short.
so I'll go with a 7 as well. It's still a good game, just not my favorite of the series. Okay, so and then final boss, which I believe was like, didn't Constantine sort of like start to turn into a deathless one or something? I don't remember.
I remember it being like pretty epic. I do remember that. There were a lot of things happening all around us. It just it fell short because I didn't care that much about Constantine or any of that stuff. So that kind of took away from it. But I mean, just to keep it going, I guess no, I'm gonna give it a 6.
Okay, I'm gonna give it a 4
Shit. Oh my
because
God.
I mean this is a bonus category, so it doesn't count towards the
Yeah,
final score. But
right, right.
I just I don't remember it, so it couldn't have been that good.
Hey, there you go. It's like if it was better, it would have stuck in our brains.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I vaguely remember like what the arena looks like and sort of like what he looked like a little bit, but I thought about giving it a 3, but I'm like, do I really want to trash it that hard just because I was drunk and have a shitty memory? Probably.
it's all the game's fault that
Yep.
we drank, that we had so many shots that night. So
Yeah. We were so happy to be finishing the game. I feel like
yeah.
that one in particular took us forever.
Oh, it did because isn't that we played Final Fantasy X in the middle of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
so we
I think we took us a
clearly
couple month break at least at some point
yeah,
in between this.
we weren't that into this game because we were like, should we play another one?
Right. Okay, so give me just a second to calculate everything here.
Okay.
Do do you have the doc up this time, Lauren?
I do. I learned my lesson.
Okay. Do you want to read off your scores?
Yeah. So for story, I gave it a 5. For combat, I gave it a 7. For non-combat, I gave it a 9. Visuals, a 9. Audio, 7. Overall feel, 7. Final boss, which doesn't count, a 6. So that brings my subtotal to 44 out of a possible 60 total points, or a 73%.
Okay. And I gave story a 6, combat a 7, non-combat a 9, visuals a 9, audio a 7, overall feel a 7, final boss a 4, which doesn't count. Subtotal is 45 out of 60, so just slightly higher than Lauren, which gives my total a 75%. So when you combine those, the overall official RPG after your score for Rise of the Tomb Raider is a 74%. I feel like that's about right for me.
Yeah, we were very simpatico with our scores. Yeah, it really is only that high because of like non-combat and visuals. The way that I really feel about, I think it could maybe be a little lower actually.
Hmm.
But yeah, the game has a lot of redeeming elements as well. So
I see that our final score for Uncharted was an 80, and honestly, I do like that game overall more than this one. I think
gotcha.
this is the only Tomb Raider I would say that about. But
Hmm.
um, and just looking at our master list here, that puts the game between uh excuse me, between Animal Crossing New Horizons and Astral Chain, which also tied with Nier Automata. And that ties it with Resident Evil 3 remake, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening remake, and yeah, which makes it number 16th place on the list overall.
Wow. Well, how do you feel about that? Because I haven't played those other games.
Um,
Does that seem about right to you?
Actually, yeah,
Okay, go us.
I
Amazing
think I
Raiders.
might like Nier Automata a little bit more than this game, but not that much more. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so I think that's, like I said, about right. And looking at the RPG scale, if anyone is interested, it looks like this game got a 105 as far as how much of an RPG it is. So it kind of just barely made the cut.
RPG. Officially an RPG.
Yep, it's
It
set in
is written.
stone. Can't
Yes.
argue. Yeah, so I guess we're done. Any overall final thoughts you want to give, or
No, I really enjoyed playing through these games with you guys. Even the one, even kind of an underwhelming one, still a lot of fun. And now I'm like solidly like in the Tomb Raider fan base. I'm excited to see what they do next. Any future games, I will definitely play them.
yeah, I'm excited. I feel like we can't be that far away from getting some kind of news on the next one because
Agreed.
it feels like they've been promoting Tomb Raider a lot to not be talking about any new games. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And this year is the 25th anniversary. So yeah. Okay. Ready to move on to the outro then?
Yep, let's do it.
My name, and I shall rise, oh will I shall rise again and again. I shall rise, oh will I shall rise again and again. And I shall rise, oh will I shall rise again and again. I shall rise, oh will I shall rise again and again. I shall rise, oh will I shall rise again and again.
She rose so that the third game could run. I don't know.
I love that. Like thinking about that, connecting it like with Laura's like story. That's pretty cool. I like that song. I want to add that to my Apple
Yeah.
Music.
Even if the titles do confuse people. So, including
They
myself.
do. Yes.
I always think of it, I know we talked about it already. I always think of it as like, okay, Shadow is the third one because she already rised and thus would cast a shadow.
I think that's a really good way to remember it. And maybe the game developers like thought of that. Also, the third one is like eclipsey, like there's like an eclipse kind of thing. So shadow. But
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense too. Okay, so that's it for the Rise of the 2 Minute review. People might be wondering what we are doing next week. Assuming we can get everybody together, it's been hard lately. We'll be doing an episode 60, which will be about the preservation of gaming. So everybody knows about the news just recently that Sony is taking down the PlayStation 3, PSP, and PlayStation Vita digital stores. And so everybody's up in an uproar about that. I think it's pretty shitty myself. And so it can kind of spark a bigger discussion about why game companies don't do a great job at preserving their history. People want to play these games still. But yeah, so look forward to that. The RPG Club, again, just a quick reminder, World of Final Fantasy. The due date is Sunday, April 11th. You got to complete Chapter 14. And one more reminder, the Materia Lockdown's ongoing. Go follow FF7MLD on Twitter and go to materialockdown.com if you want more information on that and would like to participate. It's really fun. Launching into our plugs here. If you would like to help the show, one of the best ways you can do that is to give us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or whatever your preferred podcasting platform may be. It really helps the show. The way it works is basically ratings, good or bad, although please give us 5 stars. Helps the formula. It makes the podcast more visible. It's crazy how it works. I can't begin to pretend to understand, but yeah.
Algorithms or something.
Yeah.
These guys also have a very legitimate Patreon. I myself am a patron. I enjoy a lot of the perks, which include early episode access, ad-free episodes. You get the aftercast, extra reviews, RPG Club, and more. So I would highly recommend it. I think you definitely get a bang for your buck. And you can find out more information on that at patreon.com/RPG After Years.
Much appreciated. And we will be reviewing Life is Strange 2 with Lauren as well. That's probably the next time you will see her. So look forward
I
to that.
am pumped for that.
Yeah, Corey is as well. We were talking about it yesterday.
I'm excited.
If you want to participate in the show live, we do stream it to Twitch every Sunday, usually at 9 a.m. Eastern. And then we usually do these bonus reviews on Saturdays around 11 or noon, depending on how. Usually just noon, because I know Corey's going to bitch any earlier than that. But yeah, you can find that at twitch.tv/RPG After Years. And also, Bill will be doing some random streaming of his Final Fantasy VII Materia Lockdown on that channel. And I will as well if you want to follow me at twitch.tv/TheScottSpot with underscores. Shameless plug. You can also, if you want to support the show and buy some merch and get some shirts and shit with our sick logo, you can do that on Redbubble. The link for that is redbubble.com/people/RPG afteryears/explorer. Or just look for the link in the show notes or the Twitter or whatever. Another way to reach out to the show, if you want to do so privately, maybe suggest some topics, ask some questions, you can email us at rpgafteryears@gmail.com.
Another cool thing that the pod has is a Discord. So I mentioned it earlier. The Discord is really fun. I didn't know what a Discord was before I joined this one, but it's a really active community. People talk about all sorts of stuff, gaming, otherwise. And you can find the link for that in the show notes of the pinned tweet on Twitter.
Yep. People are really into talking about Bravely Default 2 on there right now. I had to mute the channel because I don't play it and don't.
You're like, okay.
Yeah. It almost makes me want to play it, but that's a whole nother thing. Yeah, so join that. Finally, you can find the show. The best way to get in touch with us probably is on Twitter. The show is at RPG Years. And you can find me on Twitter as well at The Scott Spot.
And you can find me at Lauren Lee 81.
And that is Lee with E-I-G-H.
IGH.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank you for the
spelling.
clarification.
Yeah, I thought about that when I was writing this out again.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for episode 59 in our kind of lengthy Rise of the Tomb Raider review. Though I do think we got it in under 2 hours at least. So join us next week as we once again bitch about gaming and all that nonsense with the preservation of games. Episode 60. Will we be able to solve the problem? Probably not, but we can bitch about it. Until then, I'm Scott.
And I'm Lauren.
Catch you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
The beast has been slain. The world has been saved. Our heroes are basking in the after years. They rest in the tavern for all to hear. Their tale of victory and conquered fears. Revel in the peace that reigns through the land. All will know it was by our heroes' hands. Here RPG after year. In the RPG after year.